Hello and welcome to PressCast. I'm Farbs, and today we will be talking about issues of race across the United States. Here with me, I have none other than Kalonji Changa. He's a freedom fighter, he's a rights activist, he's an author, he's a documentary maker, he's everything. And he's got a lot of great stories to tell us. So if you're ready, let's begin. Mr. Changa, thank you very much to join the show.
Definitely honored to be here once again on PressCast. It's a beautiful thing. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks, man. It's an honor to have you around. Thanks, man. It's a pleasure to have you all the time. And so let's dig right into the real stuff, which is racism targeted Black Americans. And you just give us a little history lesson. How did it start? Why is it happening?
Racism is a byproduct of capitalism, imperialism. You know, when did it start? I guess as far as I would be concerned, it started when we first interacted with certain people when we were on the continent of Africa and were kidnapped and forced into slavery. We were brought over here as like chattel, chattel slaves, surplus labor. We were brought here to work and to build this particular country and to reinforce capitalism. And in order for us to do that, there has to be a division. You know what I mean? In capitalism, there's a division of wealth. There's the haves and the have-nots. There's, with capitalism, there has to be someone at the top and someone at the bottom. So unfortunately, we've ended up at the bottom because of the fact that, we've dealt with a violent people, and these particular violent people decided to use psychological as well as physical warfare on folks to make them feel that, this one's better than that one, and that one's better than this one, so on and so forth. So again, racism is a byproduct of capitalism, it's a byproduct of imperialism, and it exists and will exist as long as we are misled as a globally.
So it's not a new thing, but for the people of other parts of the world, like in the Middle East, when we think about violence against Blacks, Africans in America, the most recent thing that comes to head is the police violence against Black normal people, and back in 2014, and then the whole series of violence, the cycle of violence continued from there on. But still, these things were happening before it. So how come we didn't hear from all these things before that time?
Of course, we have, with technology brings about quote unquote new things. So it's always existence. Violence has always existed. Police terror has existed. Back in the day when it was during the days of slavery, you had what was called the patty rollers down in the within the United States, and you had these southern slave catchers as well as slave catchers in the north, and it was the police force of that day. You know what I mean? Back in the day, you had the overseers, and now you call them officers. So it just changed forms, but it's the same thing with different quote unquote rules. But every now and then, being in a police state, they have to reinforce, and not even every now and then, I mean, all the time, they have to reinforce, the superiority. They have to reinforce that, you are amongst the have-nots, and that as they have on the side of their police cars, serve and protect, they are protecting the landowners, those who stole the land, the original gentrifiers, those who invaded and took over, So when we talk about racism, and policing, we know it's not just a a thing that's unique to the United States. This is what goes on around the planet. Today happens to be the birthday of Patrice Lumumba out of the Congo. He was a victim of terrorism himself when the United States and Belgium and others decided that, they wanted to bring in their own quote unquote powers. So, he was assassinated at age 36, murdered in front of a firing squad, had his body chopped up and dumped into acid. So that was in the middle of the Congo. That was in Africa. You know what I mean? The same thing took place in South America and Central America and all over the world because of the fact that, again, racism and police terrorism is part and parcel with imperialism. And when it comes to imperialism and global white supremacy, it is a worldwide situation. It's about domination. It's about the, controlling the wealth and the resources on the planet, and, it doesn't matter who has to starve. It doesn't matter who has to die, as long as a few people control the entire, planet. We're talking about, again, I live in a country that is 5% of the world population, yet it controls 25% of the world's resources. Before World War II, they controlled 50% of the world's resources. You know what I mean? We live in a country that is filled with greed. This is a country that again is a 5% of the world population, but has 25% of all prisoners held in the world. You know what I mean? So of course, the mathematics is insane. When you talk about police terrorism, we call it terrorism because of the fact that brutality and terrorism is two different things. You know what I mean? Terrorism is meant to last for generations. When you're brutalized, it might just be a personal thing with an individual. You know what I'm saying? Terrorism is a system. So we're talking about the fact that over 1,000 people are gunned down or murdered by police here in this country every year. You know what I mean? So you said you first heard about the situation with Ferguson, with Mike Brown back in 2014. Over the last 20 years, at least 20,000 people have been murdered by the police here in this country. You know what I mean? When you talk about imprisonment, you have, blacks here in America, quote unquote, African Americans are 13 to 14% of the U.S. population, yet are 67 plus percentage of all inmates held within the United States. How is it possible to be 13, 14% of the population, yet 67% plus reside inside the prisons here in the United States? You know what I mean? So we're talking about, this is about control. It's about domination. It's about destruction. And this is where we are in society. But we can't just point it to the United States because we know that they have the same issues in France. We know they have the same issues in the UK. We know they have the same issues wherever there are black and brown people and white folks who are in control. Then, you're going to have those type of issues. You have caste systems, you know what I mean? Where, like in India, you have the dark-skinned Indians don't get along with the light-skinned Indians. And usually, the light-skinned ones don't get along with the dark-skinned ones. And usually, unfortunately, the lighter you are, the more control you have. You understand what I'm saying? So we've seen this time and time again. It's not a new thing. Folks see people marching in the streets. They're marching in the streets all over the world. You know what I mean? It just so happens that this shithole of a country, as Trump referred to the rest of civilization, it happens to be the last to be recognized as the ruthless empire that it is. But we already knew that countless of millions folks who have been enslaved here in this country and murdered and beaten and whipped and tortured, not just here, in places like Brazil, places like St. John and St. Croix and Haiti and Jamaica, all over, you know what I mean? So, today, the U.S. is at the forefront because of the fact that, that their lies are being exposed because of the fact that you have social media. So with social media and the internet, you're able to communicate, at a faster pace and a faster rate. Just like what you're talking about in regards to you just hearing about the police terrorism here in 2014. Many people here in the United States were in denial. You know what I mean? When someone was gunned down or arrested, the question would be, well, they had to be doing something. You know what I mean? I don't come from a lineage of criminals. We don't come from a lineage of thieves and robbers or land barons. These are the very people who control the United States. Those are the thieves. Those are the criminals. Those are the people that invade different countries. Those are the people who back different dictatorships around the globe. Those are the people who fund different genocides across the globe. You know what I mean? So, these are the people that should be in prison. Donald Rumsfeld just transitioned yesterday, 2 days ago. You know what I mean? He's a war criminal. You know what I mean? Secretary of Defense created. He was the architect of the war, quote unquote, the false war on terror. You know what I mean? It took place in Iran and Iraq. This is him. Afghanistan, places like that. So, again, we're dealing with a criminal element that wants to say that they're declaring war on terror when in fact they're the true terrorists themselves.
For my audience and possible viewers, I want to tell you that Mr. Konja has an extensive knowledge about not only, the Black history. He knows a lot about, as he mentioned, about Africa, South America, Middle East. But there's one thing I bet he doesn't know. And that's, did you know, Mr. Konja, that there is a street named after Patrice Lumumba in Tehran?
I did not
you
know
didn't
that.
know that.
That's powerful.
But back to
that's in Tehran.
So, but
wow.
Honestly, I don't know as much as
no.
It's in west of Tehran. There's a big street named
powerful.
after him.
That's powerful.
So I got a question here. Is are U.S. president any different? I mean, the treatment that Black Americans get under different administrations, do they change? I mean, should you expect any different treatment now that Biden is office replacing Trump?
It's like you all have McDonald's. You have McDonald's in Iran?
We don't have it.
Okay. So, no, but you know what it is, right?
Yeah, I know what it is.
So basically, cool. So they have a menu, right? And on that menu, they have what's called Big Macs. They have fries, they have fish fillets, they have all those type things, right? Now, if you go and you get a job there and you say, look, well, I'm a chef and I worked here, I'm a master chef and I worked all over the world and I can make all these delicacies and dishes. None of that matters. You have to make what's on the menu. You know what I mean? So if the menu calls for Big Macs, even if you're a chef or whatever that is, it doesn't matter. If you're going to be the manager for that particular location, then you have to make what's on the menu. So that's the same with the presidency of the United States. You know what I mean? The menu is about imperialism. So if you're not willing to reinforce imperialism, then you can't be the president of the United States. They confuse people. We had quote unquote African Americans happy that Barack Obama became president, but Barack Obama's a war criminal as well. You know what I'm saying? He invaded Africa with AFRICOM. You know what I mean? He sent so many drones to destroy human beings all over the planet. You know what I mean? We have a new vice president who's a quote unquote Black woman. You know what I mean? But she's here to reinforce and to uphold the empire. So the office of presidency in the United States is meant to maintain control and domination. That's it. So it doesn't matter if you're the president or I'm the president. If we're going to sit in that seat, you have to have a degree of treachery. You have to be ruthless. You have to be a slick talker, and you have to be able to be willing to control, work to control the planet.
So what's the way out?
What's the way out? Hey man, listen. The way out, it's going to take the people across the planet. It's going to take people to say, listen, we're sick and tired of being abused. You know what I mean? We want clean water. We're sick and tired of being abused. We want a safe environment. You know what I mean? We don't want we want the abolishment of prisons. We want, it's so much. Now, how do we do that? The first thing that we have to do is we have to have united thought. You know what I mean? We have to have a united front. We have to work on behalf and fight on behalf of righteousness. You know what I mean? You're not going to beat these people using the same tactics that they use, because of the fact that, the things they do aren't for people, they're for profit. You know what I mean? So the first thing is to politicize and educate people all around the planet and let them know what's really going on. Like you said, you just mentioned a few minutes ago, again, about you just hearing about police terrorism in 2014 because of a certain incident. So the floodlights of history have to be shown upon, and it has to be exposed. That's the first thing. And then we can go from there. I'm no general. I'm no,
So what do you do personally
What do you do personally? You work towards self-determination. You work towards turning your back on the criminal activities. You work on, eating healthy, being healthy, exercising, teaching your family survival, and making sure that they know that they know what side of history to be on. So that's the first steps that I see. Control your own destiny.
So what are you doing for your own community?
What am I doing for our own community? We work within our community, growing food. We work within the community, teaching them survival skills. Our organization, we work towards teaching people how to protect themselves, to defend their families, teaching them how to work together, because again, division, these people operate off of our division. They operate off of our weaknesses. So the thing is strengthening our community. You know what I mean? Bringing back love in the community. Che Guevara said that revolution is an act of love. You know what I mean? And that's why you see the people in the street. The people are not in the street because of the fact that they hate the system. The people in the street is that because we love humanity. You understand what I'm saying? Martin Luther King said, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You know what I mean? So it goes beyond just an individual. It goes beyond my community, but it starts in the house. It starts with your community and you grow from there. You know what I mean? But we need acts of solidarity when there are injustices committed around the planet. We have to speak up. There's been genocide on the Congo for over a half century. Over 6 million people have been murdered in the last half a century. Over 6 million people. But you don't hear about that, though. You don't hear about all of the atrocities that have taken place in these different countries. But you hear about what went on in Israel, right? You hear that, but you don't hear about what's going on around the globe. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that, as one of my brothers would say, folks talk about Black Lives Matter. Black lives don't matter to these folks. In fact, no life matters. You know what I mean? I mean, we live in a world where even the animals are imprisoned. They cage the animals. They take fish from all over the planet and put them in a big ass fish bowl in the middle of downtown for people to go look at. You know what I mean? So we live in a police society. The United States has over 900 military bases across the planet. You know what I mean? So, you start with your community. but I'm never going
So
to.
how do you teach the people in the community to? I'm sorry to jump in, but
Not so
you know,
good.
these encounters, these problems with, well, I don't know what you call it, this police terrorism may happen to any one of people right now in the United States. I mean, from the things that we see online, you know, people are just pulled over and suddenly the next thing you know, somebody's shot down. So how do you teach the
Right.
community to either avoid these circumstances or manage it? How do you talk to them about these things?
I mean, the people can see for themselves. You know what I mean? It's not a situation where everyone's blind. You know what I mean? The people can see things for themselves, but the reality is, all we can do is advise you on how to move. You know what I mean? When you're having these encounters, you want to have. For me, I try to have as little interaction with them as possible. If I happen to be pulled over, I'm not trying to be, friends. I'm not trying to get hostile. You know, whatever you're talking about, let's get this over with. Let's go ahead and you know, I'm just trying to get up out of your face. It's like an allergy. I don't want to. I'm allergic to this stuff, so I don't want to be around it. So um, you advise people of their so-called rights because of the fact that we know we truly don't have any rights here. But we advise them of what they can do and can't do. We advise them of how to carry themselves, keeping their hands visible, things of that nature. There was a situation here in Georgia where I live, last year, August 7th, 2020. There was a 67-year-old man by the name of Julian Lewis. Okay. He was driving through one of these country towns, and the police officer hit his car. It wasn't a high-speed chase. He just bumped his car to make him jump off the road. He hit the car. The man, 60-year-old Julian Lewis, his car rams into a tree. The battery is ejected from the car. It hit the tree so hard. He's facing this way. The cop comes down. He's facing this way. The cop shoots him in his forehead. And he justified by saying that he heard the man revving up his engine, but there was no battery in the car to rev the engine up. I don't know what kind of cars they have in Iran, but if you don't have a battery in it, you probably can't rev the engine. You know what I mean? But they killed him in cold blood. Cold blood. Now, there was an investigation, and they found that the cop was guilty. But a grand jury a few days ago threw it out. So the cop got no jail time.
How?
You know what I mean? So they discontinued the case. So this is the type of things that we deal with. But these are cases that not only you don't hear about, people around in Georgia don't even know it happened. Because of the fact that the news does a great job. The media is the propaganda arm of the establishment. And it's meant to, media is war. And that is why they wanted to shut down you all site, the Press TV, because of the fact that information is power. You know what I mean? So they know that when you get certain type of information, it further exposes the the nonsense. So many cases happen every year. Like I said, at least 1,000 people are murdered by the police per year. That doesn't include folks who die in prison cells or in jail cells that they say that killed themselves and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? You can get pulled over for a traffic ticket and you end up like Sandra Bland hanging from a jail cell. You know what I mean? So this is business as usual. So when you talk about a war-torn situation,
your enemy.
Say it again.
I'm sorry, but your enemy is the media. I mean, the thing that you're fighting against is really powerful. So
the problem
this
with
is
that
exactly
is
what you're saying, that we don't.
Yeah, I mean, this is like,
Sorry, I'm just.
The people believe what they see. So when you look on a screen and this is what the tube is telling you, and there's nothing to combat that, then that's what it is. So the more grand the lie is, the more believable it is. So I mean, it's this is the life we live.
It's very interesting, because when we look at it from this part of the world, when you look at the United States, it's the forefather of democracy. This is what they always talk about, human rights. And when you hear all these things, it's really strange. I mean, you cannot put them together. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm just
Malcolm X said democracy in America is a hypocrisy. You know what I mean? It's whoever has the pen is going to write the history. You know what I mean? If I have a pen and you don't have a pen, if I could read and write and you can't read and write, what I say was history is what it is.
So.
Because there's no one for you to go to and say, well, this isn't true. You say, well, no, read it right here. It said so in this book. You know what I mean? I mean, you all have witnessed occupation. You know what I mean? You living in Iran, you know what I'm saying, firsthand. Like I said before, 1979, we all remember. You know what I'm saying? We remember the Shah of Iran. We remember Ayatollah Khomeini. You know what I mean? We remember the quote unquote hostages. We remember all of that. You know what I mean? I was in the 4th grade when that took place. You know what I mean? But we know that revolution around the globe has been, ongoing. I live in a country, I think America has been in existence about maybe 246 years, and it's been in conflict every year. They say except 4 years that it's not been in war and conflict. But me being an African in America, I know that it's been in conflict every one of those years because of the fact they enslaved my people. They brutalized and terrorized my people. So they've been at war with us from before we even knew that we were at war. They were at war with the natives of this land that they call Indians when they committed genocide on them. You understand what I'm saying? When they came and took their land. They have a history of taking land and reestablishing it and calling it its own and setting up laws that they already broke.
It's interesting they call them Indian and they still call them Indian.
Absolutely. You had a dumbass named Columbus.
Although they don't, I mean,
yeah,
exactly.
It makes no sense at all. So that's just like you calling me an African American. Why would I call myself American if I was taken from my house? That's like me kidnapping you and giving you my last name and forcing all of your offspring to have my last name. So you're fighting to keep your name, and all of a sudden I say your name is Boo Boo. So for centuries on, your name's gonna be Boo Boo. You know what I mean? And you're supposed to accept that. And for then folks to say, well, why don't you like the name Boo Boo? You're from Boo Boo land. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm not from here. You know what I mean? So when you say things like that, people look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah, so let me ask you this question again here. Which is the correct term to refer to blacks in America? I mean, you have already given the answer, but since this is going to be the first time aired, this is the show. Yeah. So please tell us, blacks, African Americans, how do we refer to them?
Different people, prefer different things. You know what I mean? I consider myself an African in America. You know what I mean? But yet we have our own identity because while we've been in this country, we've been forced to adapt. We've been forced to evolve. So keeping in mind that we are people whose culture has been stripped from us. We are people whose native tongue have been stripped from us. You know what I mean? So we're speaking a foreign language now in reality. You know what I mean? But we've been speaking this foreign language for so long, it's become our language. But it's not our language. You understand what I'm saying? So all of our histories and our folklore and the whole nine, the diets we had, all of that's been stripped away. Now, black is a description for people. You know what I mean? For you to say, okay, this guy's black or whatever. I'm an African here in America. Like I said, different people, some say I'm new African, some people say, they're black, and some people say all types of things or whatever. But, in essence, I mean, our complexion isn't even black. But, to make white folks feel good about themselves, and, that's how so some identify, So that's just the reality of it.
So you've also written a book, if I'm not mistaken, the name is How to Build a People's Army.
Yes.
So what's that all about?
How to Build a People's Army. When we talk about that, we're not talking about necessarily from a war perspective, but a survival mechanism. I think that what I wanted to do here in the United States, there were different freedom fighters that existed before I was born. You had folks like Malcolm X, you had the Black Panther Party, you had a group called RAM, Revolutionary Action Movement, SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and so many others. And I've been blessed to learn from a lot of these folks who were founders and members of these different organizations. And, writing the book wasn't me saying that I was an expert. It was me saying that there's rules of engagement. How do we operate? How do we operate as a community? How do we operate as a people? You know what I mean? How do we move towards some form of scientific socialism? A true democracy where everyone can eat. You know what I mean? How do we share? How do we spread love opposed to, being looked at as violent or whatever the case is? You know what I mean? So I wanted to share lessons that I learned because of the fact that, again, there's always a disconnect, particularly between the youth and the elders. You know what I mean? And it was designed that way. One thing that has to happen in order for capitalism to exist is that there always has to be confusion. There has to be division. You know what I mean? It can't be a true one nation because of the fact that means that everyone would have to be eaten, that everyone would be able to eat and everything would be fair. Everyone would have clean water. I live in a country right now where there's parts of this country where you can't even get clean water. You know what I'm saying? Places like Flint, Michigan. You know what I mean? So, we live in a hell of a society. So yeah, so How to Build a People's Army is just a quote unquote manual to assist in our survival.
You also have a podcast.
Yes.
Tell us about your podcast.
Okay, so we have a podcast network, and it's called Black Power Media. Black Power Media is on YouTube, and I co-host a couple shows on there. One show is called Renegade Culture. I co-host a morning show called The Remix, and I host my own show, which is called Riot Starter TV. So, we use those as ways to interview and dialogue and to discuss different events and affairs across the planet.
Mm-hmm. Have you had any issues from the state because of the things that you do?
The thing is, we live in, like I said, we live in a police state, and for the most part, I don't want to, they're not concerned as much with our information because of the fact that they know that, the masses aren't listening. You know what I mean? Because of the fact that, our propaganda machine is in no, it holds no weight against theirs. You know what I mean? They can demonize us. They can criminalize us. You know what I mean? And folks will just go along with the go ahead. Have I had problems? Yeah. I mean, my people have a problem with the state because of the fact that, our relationship has been a like that of a desert. They sucked all the water and the life of us and given us nothing. You understand what I'm saying? They gave us nothing but a few fake titles. You know what I mean? They told us we were something we wasn't. You know, they gave us their names. They gave us their language, and they gave us their hell. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's I don't know.
So
I don't know any black or brown people in America that hasn't had a problem with the state.
I just want to ask something for, this relates to the beginning of our talk, but whenever we see these things happening in police encounters with Africans in America, we usually see, white cops doing all these things, but we have also seen some, African, how do you call them? Like black cops with your own terminology. Anyways, we have black cops in the police force.
Yeah,
Okay.
black cops, yeah.
So how do they accept to work in that rotten police force?
I mean, it's like any soldier. You have friends who you went to school with that happen to be soldiers now. You have friends that you went to school with that happen to be police now. You know what I mean? Their allegiance is with the state. The allegiance is not with you. You know what I mean? Being a black cop means nothing. That's like a dog. If you get bit by, a white dog's not going to bite you and a black dog will. I mean, if a dog's going to bite, they're going to bite. You know what I mean? You don't see a white dog and be like, oh, whew, this dog's white. He's not going to bite me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a pig is a pig, so, I mean, I don't know what you're saying, I mean.
But, they come from that society, they come from that community. They have seen all the troubles. They have themselves probably had some encounters with the police in their lives. So how do they justify? I mean, I don't understand this.
I mean, again, where did the Shah come from?
Yeah, you're right. I have nothing to say.
I mean,
yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes, and that's not me being disrespectful. It's just like, I mean,
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Did he say, "Oh well, we're from the same place"? Yeah. So, so we got to deal with it from a realistic perspective. It's not, we're not an anomaly. You know what I'm saying? We're not some, let's all sing together and have fun. If that was the case, then, there'll be no imperialism in the world because of the fact that we'd say that, look, we're going to defend our people. You know what I'm saying? And we're not going to let any outside forces come in and confuse us. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
That was great. I mean, you have no idea how grateful I am to have you. And then I really enjoy listening to you talk about all these issues in detail. And I will definitely try to have you on the show one more time, at least one more time. But I would love you to end the show for us.
Oh, okay, right on. Yeah, so definitely we appreciate the opportunity to be on your program again, on your platform again. We look forward to a united front with people of the world. We look forward to peace, love, and harmony on the planet. We are not terrorists. We are victims of a terrorist society. We are people who are concerned with humanity. We're concerned with the environment. We're concerned with justice, and we're concerned with equality. We live on this planet for such a short time. Most of us don't live to see 100 on this planet, but yet we have to go through all types of nonsense again and again and again, like it's Groundhog Day, generation after generation after generation. But like all empires that have existed on the planet Earth, no empire lasts forever. Well, it was the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, Ottoman Empire or even this current empire. None of this lasts forever. So definitely thank you. And we say, as Chairman Fred Hampton from the Black Panther Party would say, peace to those who are willing to fight for it.